Kathy and I were talking today about some of the excerpts from the interview that President Pig gave to the Washington Post, Phil Rucker and Josh Dawsey yesterday. I, I, uh, I don't have the language anymore. I don't have a word list anymore that I can use to describe the depth of this man's ignorance and stupidity and narcissism and incomprehensive approach to fucking near everything. He thinks with his gut, right? Now I'm going to get into the interview here in a minute, but
Well, I think maybe you've run out of words, Mike, because Trump has all the best words,
he has the best
and
words.
he's used them all. So no one else has any more words because he has the best ones. He's like a very smart person.
You know what I don't understand? Everybody in this country knows the depth of his ignorance, unless they're stupider than he is, and that's about 60 million people. But all of the policymakers, all of the cabinet members, how do the Republican senators go home at night and face themselves in the mirror knowing that they're backing an ignorant fucker like this who could get us all killed? I mean, I don't get this, Kathy. Tell me, figure it out for me, will you?
No, I haven't been able to figure it out either. I know that that I lost it a long time ago when I found out that his briefings, when he's briefed by his intelligence community, any of his national security team or whatever, that they have to use pictures, that they don't hand him reports, that he doesn't read reports. So they make like flashcards and charts and graphs and point to things and try to explain it to him as
Like
you
Molly
would.
did in fourth grade.
Yeah, yeah, like this is a cloud and this is a mountain. And I mean, apparently they try to explain complex foreign policy issues as you would to I guess, a first grader because he doesn't read, even though he's like a
You
smart
know, we've
person.
talked about this before, but it's becoming more and more apparent that Trump is running the government the same way a mafia don runs his family. Trump is the one, just like the mafia don is the one, who says who will live and who will die. Uh, Prison is Trump's main method of executing someone. Excommunicating them would be better. But like right now, Trump has Manafort's balls firmly in his hand. Trump does. And Manafort knows that he's got to continue to squeal like the lying little fucking pig that he is, or the Don, the head of the family, Trump, will crush his testicles, and that'll be the end of Manafort. This is, I don't know how to relate to this anymore. I really don't.
No, we used to joke about the Bush crime family, but I think there really is
Oh,
a
was I
Trump crime
crazy about
family.
that? Oh my God.
I mean, this really is a Trump crime family. They're all, I agree with you. I think they are probably legitimately involved in organized crime.
Oh, sure.
Probably with Russian
Look at Roger
mafia.
Stone and this Corsi character and all the Russian mafia. These fucking people are like right out of a Chicago sewer in 1920.
Yeah, except, they're in bed with the Russians. And probably Bugsy Malone was not. Al
Bugsy who?
Capone probably was not.
Bugsy who?
Malone, not Bugsy Malone. Bugsy who? Siegel?
Siegel.
Bugsy Siegel. Who is somebody Malone?
I don't
Spats
know.
Malone? I don't know.
All right,
You know
well,
what I'm
I
trying to
guess what I'll
say.
do is do the transcript.
I think you should read the transcript because words fail otherwise because, he's used the best words or has the best words and he's got a gut which is better than a brain.
I just,
You just, I mean, you have to at some point just say, Putin is the one with the giant erection right now. I mean, this has worked out so much better than Putin could have ever planned. This is like the best season of The Apprentice ever. Plus, I mean, he put his puppet in there, and he's doing exactly what he wants him to do. Um, and he,
Putin did. Putin
yeah,
put his puppet
Putin
in.
put
Yeah.
his puppet in there, and Trump is doing exactly what Putin wants him to do. And Putin even laughs about it in interviews. And I mean, every once in a while, I'll read some report where Putin's given an interview in Russia, and he laughs about how he controls the United States now. And it's just, yeah, that's my country now. They're not a superpower anymore. We're the superpower now. We took over. I mean, he talks about it. It's astonishing. Yeah.
This reminds me of so many instances in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s when the U.S., one way or the other, installed a puppet government, a puppet leader in various countries, and controlled exactly what that so-called leader did in his or her country, usually a man in his country. And now it's being done. I guess this is an example of what Stokely Carmichael or H. Rat Brown said. The chickens are coming home to roost for America. Of course, they said that in a different context, but that's what this appears to be. Trump is no more the leader of this country than I am, but he has the power to destroy the country, and he's using it. And I cannot get my mind around the fact that the vast majority of Americans are doing nothing. Nothing. And that 100% of Republicans in government are doing nothing. Well, this madman, this fucking insane creep, just continues to dismember this country. Maybe this is what was meant. I forget who said it. It might have been James Baldwin. I don't know. And I'm paraphrasing anyway. But it was United States better hope. There's no such thing as cosmic justice or something. Somebody will send me the quote, I'm sure. The meaning being, regardless of what was said, of all the shit that we've done over a 350-year period, all the terrible fucking things that were done by the Europeans and then the Americans, Europeans that came here and then the Americans who ripped this country away from the people who were living here and enslaved millions, that eventually there would be a day of reckoning. If that's not what this is, then there is no day of reckoning. But I have a feeling that's what's going on. I don't believe in spiritual or godly intervention. I believe that the universe runs on certain laws of physics, including for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. Maybe that's what's being applied here, a form of that. I'm lost. Philip Rucker and and Josh Dawsey are the two journalists who sat down with Trump. I don't know how they do this. I think they do it, the journalists do it, to expose this piece of shit for what he really is, I guess. Let's begin. Rucker. Thanks for taking some time with us. We wanted to start with a couple of topics in the news today. Afghanistan, 3 troops were killed overnight in that roadside bomb. Can you explain why 17 years later we're still there? Why are Americans still fighting there? Trump. We're there because virtually every expert that I have and speak to say if we don't go there, they're going to be fighting over here. And I've heard it over and over again. We're in the process of doing some, as you know, we are talking about peace over there with the Taliban, with a group of people that have a lot to do with it. They would like to see it after all these years, and we'll see what happens. A little bit too early to say what's going to happen, but we're talking about things. But it's a very sad situation when I look. We have incredible people, incredible fighters, but we're going to see what happens. We're going to see what happens. It's very sad. I just heard about the 3 people this morning. Terrible. Now, if you remember, as a candidate, Trump ran against the war and in Afghanistan and promised, so help me God, to get us out of it. But as president, all he's done is increase the number of troops there. Rucker, are you going to make it over there to Afghanistan? Trump, at the right time, I will. Rucker, before Christmas, you think? Trump speaks off the record. The answer to that. Special counsel Robert Mueller said on November 26 that former Trump campaign manager, this is something else, my bad. Okay, back to the interview. Josh Dawsey. Last night, Mr. President, the special counsel's team charged Paul Manafort with saying, they accused him at least, of saying more lies and ended his plea deal. People around you have told me you're upset about the way he's been treated. Are you planning to do anything to help him? Now keep in mind, Manafort pleaded guilty when he was facing a second trial after being convicted on 8 counts at the first trial. Mueller's team has since said that he should be sentenced immediately. Trump. Let me go off the record because I don't want to get in the middle of the whole thing. As if he's not. And then Trump speaks off the record. Dawsey, is there any version of what you're willing to give us on the record in answer to that question? About, are you going to do anything about Manafort? Trump. I'd rather not. At some point, we'll see. I'll talk on the record about it, but I'd rather not. Trump hasn't exactly held back on Mueller. He has, however, declined to criticize or praise Manafort too much. He previously distanced himself from Manafort's role in his campaign, but he has also praised Manafort's previous unwillingness to cut a deal with Mueller, just like a good mafia don would say about one of his soldiers, one of his capos. Philip Rucker, Mr. President, everyone in Washington is talking about whether there's going to be a shutdown by the end of the year and what you would do to have a deal, what kind of terms you would set. And we're wondering, what would you accept from Mitch McConnell or offer to McConnell in order to get some border wall funding before the year is over? Trump. We think we need it. We don't think. We desperately need a wall. Rucker. But what would a deal look like? Trump. I think that's been shown better than ever in the last short period of 2 weeks that we need a wall. I see the Democrats are going to want to do something because they understand too. Those pictures are very bad for the Democrats. We're not having a wall because of the Democrats. We need Democrat voters to have a wall. Now, if we don't get it, will I get it another way? I might get it done another way. There are other potential ways that I can do it. You saw what we did with the military, just coming in with the barbed wire and the fencing and various other things. Trump asserts that the migrant caravan headed through Mexico from Honduras was bad for Democrats. Late in the 2018 campaign, the caravan was a centerpiece of Trump's closing strategy, but it was a strategy that seemed more geared towards saving the relatively safe Senate than keeping the more endangered House, which Republicans lost with the largest seat loss since Watergate. Rucker. So it's the Democrats' fault that what's happening at the border over the weekend with the tear gas and the families trying to rush over? Trump. No, it's the Democrats' fault that we don't have a wall because they never gave us the vote. They just wouldn't give us the vote. Remember who Trump said was going to pay for it. We almost had a deal except when, actually it wasn't their fault. It wasn't our fault. It was on DACA. We almost had a deal, and then the judge ruled shockingly in favor of Obama's signature, even when Obama said what he's doing is not legal. Essentially, he said, it's not going to hold up. But when the judge ruled, all of a sudden it was like, that's the end of that deal. But we were very close to having a deal. $25 billion for a wall and various other things on the border. And DACA, when the judge shockingly, the Democrats never thought they were going to win that. And then you had another couple of judges rule. And then you had judges rule the other way. It's going to be settled, I assume, in the Supreme Court. But we were close to having a deal on DACA until that ruling. It's not clear what Trump is referring to here. Congress could have passed an immigration bill regardless of what the judge ruled on DACA, which was the Obama-era executive action deferring deportations for undocumented immigrants brought to the country as children. Josh Dawsey, is there anything specific that you would take from McConnell to end this fight? Trump, it's not a question of take from McConnell. McConnell's a friend of mine. We get along great. We've had a fantastic relationship. We've had a big success. We've had a lot of success. Hopefully today we'll have another success in Mississippi. We'll see what happens. Remember, this was recorded yesterday. Trump goes on. I did 4 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and 1 in the middle. Based on the enthusiasm we saw there, I think we're going to do very well. But we'll see. I know one thing. If she loses, I'll be blamed. And if she wins, I'll be given no credit. That's the only thing I know. But anyway, do you guys want something to drink? Dawsey, we're okay, thank you. Trump, go ahead. Dawsey, you said yesterday when you were leaving that you were skeptical of a climate change report that the government had done. Can you just explain why you're skeptical of that report? Now, Trump on November 26 reacted to that major report put together by 11 federal agencies that said climate change is going to challenge the economy, the environment, human health, everything. Trump, well, one of the problems, a lot of people like myself, we have very high levels of intelligence, but we're not necessarily such believers. You look at our air and our water, and it's right now at a record clean. But when you look at China, and you look at parts of Asia, and when you look at South America, and when you look at many other places in this world, including Russia, including just many other places, the air is incredibly dirty. And when you're talking about the atmosphere, oceans are very small. And it blows over and it sails over. I mean, we take thousands of tons of garbage off our beaches all the time that comes over from Asia. It just flows right down the Pacific. It flows. And we say, where did this come from? And it takes many people to start off with. Few Trump quotes have epitomized him like this one. He's been skeptical of U.S. intelligence, the judiciary, the legal system, climate change, and many other institutions and sources of expertise. Trump. Number 2, if you go back and if you look at articles, they talked about global freezing. They talked about at some point the planets could have freeze to death. Then it's going to die of heat exhaustion. There is movement in the atmosphere. There's no question as to whether or not it's man-made and whether or not the effects that you're talking about are there. I don't see it. Not nearly like it is. Do we want clean water? Absolutely. Do we want clean air to breathe? Absolutely. The fire in California, where I was, if you looked at the floor of the fire, they have trees that were fallen. They did no forest management, no forest maintenance. And you can take a match like this and light a tree trunk when that thing is laying there for more than 14 or 15 months. And it's a massive problem in California. This claim has been put forward by White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders, who got 4 Pinocchios from the Washington Post fact checker. Dawsey, so you're saying you don't see that Trump. Josh, you go to other places where they have denser trees. It's more dense, where the trees are more flammable. They don't have forest fires like this because they maintain. And it was very interesting. I was watching the firemen, and they're raking brush. You know, the tumbleweed and brush and all this stuff that's growing underneath. It's on fire, and they're raking it, working so hard, and they're raking all this stuff. If that was raked at the beginning, there'd be nothing to catch fire on. It's very interesting to see. A lot of the trees, they took tremendous burns at the bottom, but they didn't catch on fire. The bottom is all burned, but they didn't catch on fire because they sucked the water. They're wet. You need forest management, and they don't have it. Trump previously lodged an odd theory citing Finland about how raking brush in forests could prevent forest fires. Finland dismissed the idea, but here Trump expands upon this odd idea and how such things could be avoided. Rucker, Mr. President, there's a lot of economic news too. Trump, yes, we've got a lot of news there. Rucker, the gains in the past year in the stock market, many of them, there's been a correction. General Motors is closing some of its plants, laying off a lot of the workers. You said when you campaigned in Michigan that none of the plants would close, and now one of them will. Trump, no, but we have plants moving in too. We do. Rucker, so what are you going to do about this? And are you nervous about a recession occurring? Trump, no, I'm not, because what I'm doing is I'm doing trade deals. The trade deals take a little time. The fact is, I disagree with the Fed. I've been open about that. I think the Fed is a much bigger problem than China. I think that China wants to make a deal very badly. I think we'll either make a deal or we'll be taking in billions and billions of dollars a month in tariffs. And I'm okay with either one of those two situations. But I can tell you that China wants to make a deal. I can tell you that. And that other countries want to make deals because they know that I'm not playing around. The U.S., Mexico, Canadian arrangement was a very well-received deal. That got done, and a lot of people said it wouldn't get done. We're making great trade deals. We lose $800 billion a year with trade. We're making great trade deals, but we're losing almost $1 trillion. Rucker. So who should be held responsible? You mentioned the Fed, but when Harry Truman sat here, he had that sign that said the buck stops here. Trump, I'm not blaming anybody. Rucker, but Mr. President, it doesn't seem to stop with you. Trump, I'm not blaming it. Look, I took recommendations. I'm not blaming anybody. But I will tell you at this moment in time, I am not at all happy with the Fed. I am not at all happy with my choice. I think we have to let it go. You know, if you look at China is being accommodative. The euro and Europe is being accommodative. We're not getting any accommodations. And we're also paying $50 billion. We're paying down our liquidity. You can make the case it's a positive thing in one way, but another thing, it snaps your liquidity. So I'm doing deals and I'm not being accommodated by the Fed. I'm not happy with the Fed. They're making a mistake because I have a gut. And my gut tells me more sometimes than anybody else's brain can ever tell me. Rucker, but you're the president, sir. Trump, I'm not blaming anybody. Rucker, okay. Trump, I'm just saying, I'm not happy with the Fed. So far, I'm not even a little bit happy with my selection of Jay Powell, the Federal Reserve Board Chair. Not even a little bit. Dawsey, Mr. President, you're Trump. And I'm not blaming anybody, but I'm just telling you, I think that the Fed is way off base with what they're doing, number one. Number two, a positive note, we're doing very well on trade. We're doing very well. Our companies are very strong. Don't forget, we're still up from when I came in, 38% or something. You know, it's not like we're up, and we're much stronger, and we're much more liquid. And the banks are now much more liquid during my tenure. And I'm not playing by the same rules as Obama. Obama had zero interest to worry about. We're paying interest, a lot of interest. He wasn't paying down. We're talking about $50 billion lots of different times, paying down and knocking out liquidity. Well, Obama didn't do that. And just so you understand, I'm playing a normalization economy, whereas he's playing a free economy. It's easy to make money when you're paying no interest. It's easy to make money when you're not doing any pay downs. So you can't. And despite that, the numbers we have are phenomenal numbers. Number one, on the Fed, Trump is drawing an extremely fine line, if the line even exists, between repeatedly citing the Fed's interest rate decision in the context of bad economic news and blaming it for that. If he's not blaming it, though, why keep citing it? And number two, Trump routinely complained about the Fed's interest rates being at 0% under Obama and having been raised under him. The Obama-era rate was in response to the recovery from the recession that Obama inherited. The improving state of the economy has led the Fed to increase the interest rate. Josh Dawsey. Mr. President, your national security team is going to the Hill today, to brief senators on Saudi Arabia and Jamal Khashoggi. I've heard from Senator Graham, who I know you were with yesterday, and others, that they want stronger punishment on Saudi Arabia, tougher sanctions. Do you want to impose that, or do you think that would be deleterious to our... I'm going to listen to what they say. They're all friends of mine, and I get along with them great. I'm going to certainly listen to what they have to say, Josh. In the end, though, they're spending massive amounts of billions of dollars. If you look at Iran and what they do, and you look at many other countries, I don't have to embarrass other countries by saying it. If you look at what they do, it's a rough part of the world. It's a dangerous, rough part of the world. But they've been a great ally. Without them, Israel would be in a lot more trouble. We need to have a counterbalance to Iran. I know him well, the Crown Prince. And by the way, never did business with them. Never intended to do business with them. I couldn't care less. This is a very important job that I'm doing right now. The last thing I care about is doing business with people. I only do business for us. Somebody said, well, maybe they're an investor in one of his jobs. The answer is no, but I just feel that it's very, very important to maintain that relationship. It's very important to have Saudi Arabia as an ally. If we're going to stay in that part of the world, now, are we going to stay in that part of the world? One reason to is Israel. Oil is becoming less and less of a reason because we're producing more oil than we've ever produced. So, all of a sudden it gets to a point where you don't have to stay there. This echoes much of what Trump has said previously about reasons for taking it easy on Saudi Arabia. But it's notable that he makes the case that the United States may not have such an incentive to keep such allies in the Middle East. That could be read as him suggesting he has no choice. But it could also be read as a warning to Saudi Arabia that its leverage may not be permanent. Rucker. Sir, do you hope to meet with the Crown Prince when you're in Argentina at the G20 later this week? Trump. Well, it's not scheduled, but I certainly would. But it's not scheduled, but I certainly would. Rucker, and why have you taken his denials for ordering the killing of our colleague, Jamal Khashoggi? I haven't taken anything. That was Trump. Rucker, over the evidence that the intelligence community has gathered. Trump, Phil, I haven't done that. If you look at my statement, it's maybe he did and maybe he didn't, but he denies it, and people around him deny it. And the CIA did not say affirmatively he did either, by the way. I'm not saying that they're saying he didn't do it, but they didn't say it affirmatively. I'm saying this. We have $52 a barrel oil right now. And I called them about 3 months ago before this whole thing happened with Khashoggi. And I let him have it about oil. We were up to $82, probably 2.5 months ago. We were up to $82 a barrel. And it was going up to $100. And that would have been like a massive tax increase. And I didn't want that. And I called them. And they let the oil start flowing. And we're at $52. In fact, now I'm being blamed for traffic jams. This was the greatest. Actually, in the Palm Beach Post, they had a thing that I'm causing traffic jams because they have the... Here, Trump takes direct credit for the falling price of oil, which is an extremely bold claim. The math on oil prices is complex and based on many factors besides political pressure. It's also not a function of any one country's leaders. Josh Dawsey. I wonder what paper that was. I saw you tweeted that, Trump. It's the Palm Beach Post. Sarah Sanders. Guys, we have just maybe one more question. Rucker. Sir, you just said maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But are you getting the best advice and the best information from the intelligence community? And on the climate issue from your experts in the government because you're doubting what they're saying? Trump. Phil, I'm getting advice. I'm the president of this country. I have to do what's the best for our country. We have a very important ally in Saudi Arabia. We have an ally that has tremendous oil reserves, which are, well, frankly, they can make prices go up and down, and I want to keep them down. We have an ally that's investing billions and billions of dollars in our country. They could very easily invest 110 billion, 450 billion overall over a period of time, fairly short period of time. 110 billion in military. Russia and China would love to have those orders, and they'll get them if we don't. They'll have no choice, but they'll get them if we don't. So I take everything into consideration. And again, he totally denies it. And he denied it to me on 3 different occasions, on 3 different calls. And a lot of the other people deny it too. Did he do it? As I said, maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But in the meantime, Saudi Arabia is spending billions and billions of dollars in the United States. And I want them to spend it here. I don't want them to spend it in China and Russia. The Washington Post fact checker has ruled that these numbers are fantasy. Dawsey, you're scheduled to meet again with Vladimir Putin at the G20. Do you think he was within his rights to challenge the Ukrainian ships? Ukraine's president is introducing martial law after Russian ships fired at and seized Ukrainian Navy ships. Trump, I'm getting a report on that tonight, and that will determine what happens at the meeting. I'm getting a full report on that tonight. That will be very determinative. Maybe I won't have the meeting. Maybe I won't even have the meeting. We're going to see. Maybe I won't have the meeting. But depending on what comes out tonight, we should have a pretty good indication on exactly what happened tonight at about 6 o'clock. Rucker. Should that aggression concern people here? Trump. I don't like that aggression. I don't like that aggression at all. Absolutely. And by the way, Europe shouldn't like that aggression. And Germany shouldn't like that aggression. You know, they're paying 1%, and they're supposed to be paying more than 1%. Rucker. So are they not doing enough? Trump. They're absolutely not doing enough. Germany? Absolutely not. Many of those countries are not doing enough toward NATO. They should be spending much more money. Trump seems to momentarily repudiate what Russia is doing, but then quickly changes the subject to NATO funding. Rucker, I know we're short on time, but we would just love to get your thoughts on the acting Attorney General Matt Whitaker over at the Justice Department. Trump. He's a fine person. Rucker, has he been fully briefed on the Mueller investigation, the status of that? Trump. I don't know. Rucker, and has he talked to you about it? Trump. I can tell you that Matt Whitaker is a respected man. He's doing an excellent job. We're looking at possible attorney generals right now. And I will tell you, within the Justice Department, he's a highly respected person, and he's doing a very good job. I also think he's a very good person. I think he's a very good person. And he had a reputation for being, I think he was 6 years in Iowa as U.S. Attorney. He had a reputation for being very strong, very smart, very good. I think he's a very good person. Dawsey, has he talked to you about the Mueller investigation at all? Trump. We don't talk very much. I mean, I haven't spoken to Matt very much. I put him there, but we speak really very little. The Mueller investigation is what it is. It just goes on and on and on and on. Trump has given 2 chances to say whether he has talked to Whitaker about the Mueller investigation, and he punts both times. Rucker. Would you commit right here to letting Mueller continue his work until the investigation concludes? Trump. This question has been asked about me now for Kellyanne Conway 1,000 times. Trump. Almost 2 years. And in the meantime, he's still there. He wouldn't have to be, but he's still there. So I have no intention of doing anything. Sanders. All right. Thanks, guys. Trump. Okay? Thank you, fellas. That was an interview with the leader of the, no, I can't say that. That was an interview with the current president of the United States. And if that doesn't make the hair on the back of your neck kind of shiver, which it did to me when I read it, you might want to take your pulse, because a chance you might be dead.